The following is part of a guide for individual subscribers to Primary Digital. Today we're going to discuss the Teach component. First, I'll click on Content and find the individual grade. For today's demonstration, we'll do grade 3. Next, we need to find our topic. Today we'll be working on addition and subtraction. Okay, then we'll find our individual lesson. Today we'll be working on subtracting 4-digit numbers with regrouping in ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. First, we'll show the Teach resource to our students. We'll explain that we're going to learn how to subtract 4-digit numbers with regrouping. We're going to be looking at segment number 1 first. I'll have the discussion with my students about difference and how we can find the difference. And when I'm ready, I can show my students that to find the difference between numbers, we subtract. Okay, we can also show our students that we can represent the problem vertically. Okay, next we're going to move on to segment number 2. We're going to discuss how we're going to use a place value chart to help us subtract. We're going to show 8,123 using base 10 blocks. I would then ask my students how many 1,000 cubes, 100 squares, 10 rods, and unit cubes we should be putting into the place value chart. When I've had that discussion, I can click to show them what the place value chart should look like. Next, we move on to segment number 3. Now we're going to illustrate the regrouping of 110 into 10 ones using base 10 blocks. To do that, I'm going to click and show my students. I can toggle back and forth. Okay, I can also ask my students for the answers to the blanks. When I'm ready, I can show them that 2 10s, 3 ones equals 110 and 13 ones. We can also represent that abstractly. Next, we'll move on to segment number 4. After regrouping the tens and ones, we can now subtract the ones. Once again, I can toggle back and forth. We have our 13 ones. I can subtract 6. So 13 ones minus 6 ones equals 7 ones. Can also represent that abstractly. If you notice, our math friend has a thought bubble. If you click on the thought bubble, there is a prompt to help guide instruction. Once we address the prompt, we can move on to the next segment until we have covered all of the segments. At this point, I'll jump ahead to segment number 11, where we have a different subtraction problem. Okay, I might ask the student at this time to represent 6,372 using the base 10 blocks in the subtraction place value chart. So the student would click on the unit cubes twice, the 10 rods 7 times to put in 7, 300s, and 6,000s. Okay, now the student can see in order to subtract 5 from the ones column, we would need to regroup 110. So I'll click on one of the 10 rods, and when I'm ready, regroup it into the ones column. Now I have my 12 ones, and I can subtract 5 of them. Next, I need to subtract 8 tens. Only have 6, so the students need to realize they need to regroup one of the hundreds. So I've clicked on one of the hundreds, and I can regroup that into the tens column. Now I can subtract 8 of them. Next, we need to subtract 3 hundreds. Once again, we'll need to regroup. I can select one of the thousands to regroup into the hundreds column. Now I can select 3 to subtract. Next, I need to subtract 4 thousands. So visually, we've arrived at our answer, 1,987. We also need to reinforce that with the abstract representation. We also encourage students to check their work. And when we're ready, we can also share the steps for solving this particular problem. Next, we'll move on to the final segment, and I'll clear out my place value chart. You may want to come up with more questions using the template in segment 12 to allow students to try to use the virtual manipulative to help them subtract. This would be done the same way as we use the virtual manipulative in segment number 11.